per Oregon meeting law, this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast on youtube.com and archived by the city. If you don't feel comfortable being recorded, you may exit the meeting now.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Okay. And our fire report, again, the fire department does update their website. So information from them is available on the THPRD, Tualatin Hills Fire Department site. So we can go out there and anyone can go out there at any time, get the update on their latest news, which will then let us go directly into our police report. And Officer Andler is here with us this evening. And I know the hot topic was catalytic converters.
They are the hot topic. And if anybody wasn't here, like I mentioned, we're very, very busy. It's really every month is like the last month. We're dealing with the same crimes repetitively. Catalytic converter thefts are huge because, and unfortunately, if anybody has a Toyota Prius, that's the favorite target. Precious metals, semi-precious metal prices are high, and you can just go to Home Depot, steal a cordless grinder and cut them off in a heartbeat. So, and they get up to $400 or $500 for a cut off cap from a Prius. There's 2 catalytic converters. That's why they're getting hit so hard. But I guess to summarize the crime report in the city is we've always had a pattern of, you know, more activity, more police in the center core around the transit centers and the main thoroughfares. And it's that times 3. So the good news for West Beaverton, South Beaverton residential areas is, honestly, as much as you are seeing some crime, it's very minor. Most of our activity is focused in our district to the central part. It is consuming enormous amount of resources dealing with reoccurring livability issues of people behaving very badly. I'll give you an example. Just, you know, somebody was banging on cars. They had their pants down, waving their boy parts at people. And we all thought, yeah, that sounds normal. That's a regular call. That is a common occurrence, running in traffic, throwing rocks at cars, out of control, chaotic behavior. And if you've read anything, the news is kind of catching on to the changes in PCP over the years. I mean, not PCP, methamphetamine, P2P methamphetamine. And we're seeing a huge resurgence of methamphetamine on top of the heroin and the fentanyl. So we see a lot of just super out of control behavior that I think you see a lot of news articles now identifying as the current type of methamphetamine that's commonly available. It's different, and it's the old style P2P, and it is makes people more aggressive, more violent, more angry. And we're just seeing a lot of that. So other crimes, we have a lot of DUIs. We've had a lot of DUI enforcement. We're going to exceed 500 DUI arrests this year. We're already over it. So it's a record-breaking year in DUI arrests. For Beaverton alone, Washington County, I think, has the same numbers. Portland, by contrast, I will say, has their lowest number ever, which is an interesting difference. That doesn't mean they're not happening. It means they're too busy to deal with them. So, I mean, we kind of have what we have, which is a lot of Portland's flowing into Beaverton, and it's a challenge to address every day. It's, people are pretty fatigued with the behavior of people we're dealing with and our options, what we do with them when we have to address them, how we handle it. And it's very difficult to feel like we're able to help the community because we don't have a lot of choices on how to help them. They're beyond help. Their behavior is horrible, and we're giving them tickets. And so it's not terrific. So not to depress you, but that's kind of how it's going out here in the police world. And it's the whole city. But your neighborhood, I don't go there very often. So on the plus side, I think it's not a lot over there in comparison to what we're dealing with in the core of the city.
Well, that's a little reassuring.
I know it's not. What are you guys seeing living in the community, what do you see driving around? Do you see the change? Do you see, is it really visible or only slightly visible or not at all?
I think it's visible. I certainly notice, for example, along Powerline Trail, that park, because I am out on the road pretty early in the morning. It's before a lot of cars are out. But there is a vehicle that appears to be people living in their car. And I notice a lot more people who probably are homeless and living in their car. And I know that can often lead to some other issues.
I've noticed, I came into the neighborhood here in Marion, Allen in 1996. And up until just a few week or two ago, nothing ever was broken into. What we had recently was two people had left their cars unlocked. And about 2 weeks ago, what we think is a young man came by and just checked all the cars and then stole a few things from them. And then we've had a few homeless people in Roy Dancer Park over the last several months. Every now and then, 3 or 4. And I reported, a number of people reported to the police, and so have I. And once they were talked to by the police, then they go away. So we don't, but the kind of the quote unquote break-ins in the car is very new. We haven't had any. See, I'm in an association here, 26 families, 13 buildings, homeowners association. So we know I know everything that's going on. I'm the maintenance coordinator, I'm on the board. And so up until since 1996, the only thing that's ever happened has been those 2 little cars. That's a trend.
I know that we have noticed, we've noticed when you're talking about people in Roy Dancer Park, we've noticed more people who, I don't know if they're camping overnight or not, because I'm not up there during all hours in the Mount Williams Park, but we have noticed people there in among the trees in the woods, not just walking their dogs or walking along the trail.
Right. So you bring up some really interesting points, and a lot of it is case law, judges' decisions. And I'll give you an example. Our THPRD parks don't fall into the public property realm. We can trespass people from those locations. But places like the library and anything more public is, by case law, we can't stop people from camping in a lot of areas. And to understand politically how far this is going, in the last legislative session, we almost lost. There was a bill that would have made it so that we could not remove people from private property for the crime of trespassing. It would have not been an arrestable offense. We could have only cited and encouraged people to walk away. So we have lawmakers who are going further than where we're at for being able to control the spaces that are public and private. And really all we have is private. The only thing we can enforce is private. And we can't enforce public very effectively because most case law is driven by, well, the person might have been going in the car to get warm, or they're driven by case law sympathetic to homelessness, and their case law is sympathetic to drug use. Because it's seen as a disease. So a lot of the reasons we don't do things the way we did 4 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, is due to dramatic changes in the law. Every year, a book comes out where the DOJ, Department of Justice in Oregon, gives a synopsis of case law change. Like, hey, cops, lawyers, everybody needs to be aware of these judges' decisions, case laws. It's usually this big. It doesn't change much in each year. It went to that in like a year. There's tremendous change in laws that are hard for anybody to keep up with because they're all part of the social revolution to change things in a new vision of how things should be. And you guys are pointing out some of the areas that have a downside that are hard to enforce, that if you've lived here for 10 years, you've seen a change. And there's been a big change in how we handle it, but we're guided by what the law says we can do. And that has changed so dramatically, I can't even describe it, in the last several years. And there's still attempts to make it go further. And I can't emphasize it enough, but that law, which did not pass, would have basically decriminalized. You could not arrest for any theft under $1,000, and we could not remove somebody from private property by force if they were trespassing or committing theft. It was lunacy. You have to imagine, we go to calls where people are behaving horribly in stores and in restaurants and in all kinds of places where people, and that would apply to people's homes. And that was literally a legislative item that was legitimately capable of passing, that didn't. So there's some really, we've got some serious legal momentum over the last decade that's catching up to us right now. That's compounding this by COVID.
Yeah. The problem is what you're saying. I mean, mental illness, drug abuse, I mean, those are more like diseases, but that doesn't mean, oh, it's okay. You know, you've got to still be able to take action, because unless we can do something to, you know, hold the people, at least do something, then you're stuck, because you can't even get them, you know, try to encourage them or give them choices of either, you know, get help or face consequences. But we were already in trouble before this too, because I mean, I just heard about, you know, if people were, you could only hold them for a certain amount of time, and it was too much of a backlog to get people assessed. I think COVID just made it all worse, but you probably know more about that than I do, Officer Adler.
I think our district attorney, Kevin Barton's going to put out something at the end of the year about how many people took advantage of Measure 110's opportunity to seek drug treatment in Washington County. The answer is 0. The whole ballot measure to decriminalize, when we made fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine a less severe offense than you speeding 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, when we did that, the deal was providing treatment voluntarily. 0 people so far in the county of Washington have sought that treatment under that program. I think that will be coming out shortly. And Kate, you've gotten to the point exactly. What we do to help people if they don't want to be helped. If there's no consequences, you will get repeat performance. And that's, people got to look at that and go, what should we be doing different? And it's going to be a slow process, because there's a lot of stuff in place that has left us absolutely hand-tied. So we question our authority a lot when we go to calls. We have to weigh things. We're literally now trained in something called governmental interest. We go, well, I know it's a crime, but how high is the governmental interest relative to how hard I should try to apprehend this person? That's a slippery slope. That's an almost philosophical question that's very hard to answer on the fly. And that's where we're at in the great state of Oregon. I will say Washington is further ahead of us. They took away something called reasonable suspicion, which is the only state in the 50. They are literally, if they can't arrest you, they can't stop you. So if you're running from a murder, they can't stop you. That's where Washington's at. We need more education about what these laws have done to actual practical enforcement of law. And it's a little bit terrifying right now in Oregon and Washington. California is looking better, and California is where all this started. So it's we're dealing with some really interesting stuff, but I'm glad I'm not in Washington. I don't know how you do police work without the legal construct called reasonable suspicion. It's our authority to stop temporarily and detain people to further investigate if we have reasonable suspicion of a crime occurring, about to occur, having occurred. You take that away, if you can't get arrested, we can't stop you. That's a scary high threshold for police work, since things unfold very quickly with limited information. So Washington's in an even crazier state right now. So
you were right, Officer Adler. This it did go worse after catalytic converters.
I feel an obligation to let people know the reality of it. because these are complex, deep-seated issues that are societal, that have been going on long before George Floyd and COVID. They've been building for a long time. They gained a tremendous amount of momentum at the beginning of the pandemic and George Floyd. They really accelerated, where we were like, let's try it. Let's take a chance. Let's pass this. But it's going to take a while to unwind. We are still doing our very best to, like right now, we're chasing some shoplifters. Shoplifting is, again, through the roof. But if you compare us to other larger cities, it's really, if you drive around here, I try and view it from not a police point of view, and I'm like, it's really nice here. Without my knowledge, I feel like things look pretty good in most places. I don't see a lot too obvious here. I don't even go into Portland anymore, and I've been here 35 years and went to college there, and lived there. So yeah, the police are going to be a little depressing right now.
Yeah.
Officer, is there any social service agencies that some of these people who are doing some of these crimes can be helped by?
Sure. They all have, most of the people I talk to, if they're able to talk, are hooked up with, there's Sequoia, LifeWorks, the churches. There's lots of resources, but let me put it this way. It's very visible and present in Oregon, and that's a result of some laws, but it's terrible weather here. Winter is here. The addiction is so powerful with methamphetamine and heroin that they're here because they're not in San Diego. Why aren't they in San Diego? San Diego has a marvelous climate for being homeless. They're here for a reason. They're here putting up with the rain, living in a tent. It's a miserable existence for a reason, because they have larger issues of addiction. They may have underlying mental health issues, they may not. But everybody I deal with has meth in their pocket. They might be schizophrenic too, they might not, but meth is a factor in most of the bad behavior, or heroin, and it drives most of the theft. So that addiction is so powerful, you assume they want help with it. And that's the part that people have to understand. Their question is, what if I don't? What are the consequences if I get caught stealing? What are the consequences if I camp here? What are the consequences if I run in traffic and throw rocks at cars? And we try and make them stop. And it's like, what if I don't? I'll take you to jail. They don't like that. Well, I'll write you a ticket. Sounds good. Can you hurry up? That's where we're at right now. So there's people we've put in housing that you can't even keep in housing. You can give them the key and fill it with food, and they'll drift away the minute they start using meth. These are really, I just don't think it's a matter of, I'll give you an example. Texas with juvenile prostitutes. We have juvenile prostitutes in Oregon. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Every state has them. They're kids, and they're being prostituted by pimps. And they're like heroin addicts. They're addicted. It's destructive. It's very bad for them. And they are being sold by somebody. And they are very protective of their pimp. They'll never go against their pimp. And Texas locks them up, not in a jail, in like a housing situation, but they can't leave because they're not able to control their behavior. They're that at risk from pimping and prostitution. It's the same with drugs. To me, it's a very dangerous choice that has bad outcomes and bad behaviors, but it's so powerful. They'll continue to choose it. They'll sleep in a tent in the rain. They'll live like this. They're not in San Francisco they are in San Francisco, but they're not in warmer climates as hot as much. They come up here. I don't know why. It's so cold and wet here in the winter, but we are very hospitable to the lifestyle. And you would think you could just get them housing, but that's not that doesn't seem to be the answer. Just get them housing. From what
When
I've
I was
seen.
on council, I went to a training, National League of Cities training, and they were talking about, this was some years ago when meth was just really beginning to go crazy. And they said a couple of things. One that was pretty fascinating. They were talking about the levels of dopamine that your body releases. And these are probably not the exact numbers, but to give you a general sense of it, if you're really hungry and you eat, you get about 100 somethings of dopamine released. If you have an orgasm, it's like 300 things of dopamine released. You're on old-fashioned heroin, it's 600 things of dopamine. You're on methamphetamine, 1,200. The high, it's incredibly high. And the other thing that it does is that when you do it, your body, your natural response of creating its own dopamine goes down. So you don't even have the normal dopamine that you would get from eating or doing things that give you pleasure. It's gone. So the desire to, that's why, yeah, 1,200, shoot, yeah, be cold, huh? What's that? My body's not even, it's just crazy. The effect is just crazy.
Exactly how I understand it. And that's exactly, I read things in the news and I go, that's not what I see. What you just said is what I see. It's more powerful and more necessary, and I choose it over a humane existence. I think it's almost inhumane. If you want to do something, it is going to require the will and authority to do it, because they won't. And like a child that is misbehaving horribly, eventually you just got to go, no, it's for your good. You are going down a bad path. It's going to hurt you, or it already has hurt you, and you have to intervene. And I think you said it exactly, Kate. I think that's exactly what I see. It's not going to be voluntary. It's not just a matter of resources that you can seek out and save yourself. It's not that simple.
Okay, we have a couple more minutes for our police report. Are there any more questions? Any other questions for Officer Andler?
Well, I will humbly apologize for being so depressing this evening.
You're just being realistic and telling us the way it is.
I appreciate that. It is, but we are doing well as a department. We're getting by. We're trying to keep our heads up. We support each other. It's a good place to work. Beaverton's a great community. So there is optimism. It's a bit of a grind right now. So I appreciate you letting me share that with you. And if anything changes, I will let you know.
Okay.
All right, we appreciate
so
your
much
service,
for your
officer.
report.
Thank you.
Thank you for all
very
your
much.
work too.
You're welcome. And I do have to sign off because I'm on duty and I got to go back.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank
All
you.
right. See you.
Good night. Okay. And next up, as I had mentioned before, for those who came on really early, Mike, who is our Tualatin Hills Park and Rec liaison, is not able to attend this evening, but there is one major item. Tualatin Hills is planning, and I'm just reading this off of the email I got, a new multi-use sport court at Mountain View Champions Park. And the sport court will be uniquely designed to be fully accessible to people experiencing disabilities. And it will have wide paved pathways with soft angled turns, soft slopes, no steps, wide entrance gates, spectator areas, and additional parking, including ADA parking and more. That's just kind of going over that quickly. The sport court will be located just south of the existing community gardens along 170th Avenue. So that has to be right there up just on the other side. What would that be, south of Farmington? Isn't that south of Farmington? Or north of Farmington? Do you all know where that is?
Which park is it again?
It's the Mountain View Champions Park.
Oh,
So, you know, that new, which they.
Yeah, is that west of Of 170th. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's on the west
Yeah.
side of 170th. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they looks like they're just doing more development. They're expanding it.
Oh,
So there
fun.
will be a virtual community meeting on Thursday, the 18th, tomorrow at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And if you are interested but can't attend the meeting, they will record it and you can view it later on the district's YouTube channel. Okay, so that sounds rather exciting. And then next up we do have is our guest presenter, Claudia Steiner-Fricker. Did I pronounce that right, Claudia?
Yep.
Okay. She's going to tell us great tips on how we can prepare for, and I put natural disasters because actually the big one, that would be a natural disaster. Certainly, I mean, we have, I guess you could say minor disasters and major disasters, but certainly being prepared for anything would be helpful. I know here, my husband and I, we talk about it. We have kind of semi plans, and it's one of those things where it would be wonderful to have the entire neighborhood organized, which of course is one of those things that will be coming up for us. But we would love to hear from Claudia's experience, and she's also a member of CERT as well. So take it away, Claudia.
Thank you very much. I am really happy to be here because preparedness is one of my favorite subjects. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see. Let me, oops. Oh, wait a second here. Gotta get this where I need it to be. Okay, stop that. Okay. Trying to move this here. There we go. That's what I needed. Okay, here we go. So low system resources. Okay, so let me know if you're having trouble hearing me. I must have too much stuff open on my laptop here. So what I would like to do is give you some information about the programs that we have through Beaverton Emergency Management. I work with emergency management on the outreach efforts. I basically am kind of tag, I'm it. Emergency management only has 4 paid staff, and they have their hands full with their regular duties. And so we have volunteers with emergency management that handle a lot of things. I've been a CERT member for 7 years. I spent the bulk of that in executive leadership. My last position was head of CERT. And now I am focused on the subjects that are really important to me, and that is community preparedness for disaster. So we do public outreach and education. That is extremely important to creating a resilient community post-disaster, is to educate the public, make sure that they know the steps that they can take to make sure that they themselves and their families can be self-sustaining for a period of time. And so our role is to inform, to educate, and encourage actions that build preparedness. So, we do this in a number of ways. We have preparedness booths that, for example, we're always at National Night Out. Places like, businesses and churches will have preparedness fairs. We show up there. Any opportunity that we have to get out in front of the public and say, these are some things that we have to offer you and help you with. We have 3 programs that are our main focus, that we feel best positions our community to be able to mitigate against, respond to, and recover from hazards that may affect us. We do have kind of our mantra in emergency management is big or small, prepare for them all. So, we know that we have winter storms that can come in, windstorms that can come in and knock out power. Depending on how widespread it is, kind of depends on how long you may be without power before the utility folks can get out there and get everything back online. So, it can be as simple as making sure that you have the ability to spend a few days, maybe even up to a week without electricity. And then, of course, we can go even further than that and talk about the fact that the greatest threat to the Pacific Northwest is the Cascadia subduction zone. So that threat of a catastrophic seismic event just kind of drives us to go further than preparing for a few days without electricity. And so we have 3 programs that really bring together all the different critical components that we feel is important for our community to embrace. We have the 2 Weeks Ready program, which is from Oregon Emergency Management. And this is all about, let's see, let me go to the next slide. This is all about being informed about the hazards. Knowing the hazards is what helps us know what to prepare for. And so when we talk about hazards, we talk about starting in your own neighborhood and then going out into the community, out into the state, and then regionally, the hazard threats that can affect us. And making a plan for those hazards, how to prepare for them, how to respond to them, and how to be able to recover from them. And then, of course, this is all about building that kit, making sure that we have enough supplies to be self-sufficient. And this program advocates for being 2 weeks ready. Oregon has experienced a recent cycle of emergencies and disasters, including floods and drought, wildfires, ice storms, excessive heat. I mean, this past summer was absolutely brutal. And then, of course, a pandemic, right? And, being prepared can make a really big difference on how well that you can cope and get through these events. And so each Oregon resident should proactively prepare to be self-sufficient for at least 2 weeks during a disaster. And of course, I'm always thinking, boy, to that big earthquake, just because the impact that will have. And so I tell people, get yourself prepared for 2 weeks, pat yourself on the back, and then just keep going. And so on OEM's website, they have a lot of really good tools for 2 weeks ready, and they will be coming out with a lot more. The past almost 2 years, and I say we because I've been on the production team for this, are coming out with a whole package that extends on what they already have. And that will be coming out in further detail on down the road. And then we have the Map Your Neighborhood program. Now, this is preparedness at the neighborhood level. We know from past disasters that your immediate source of help is going to be a neighbor, right? We also know that neighborhoods that are prepared can reduce the potential for property damage, injury, and death. And Map Your Neighborhood is a nationwide program that's recognized by FEMA to simply promote preparedness at the neighborhood level. This program teaches neighbors how to work together, how to plan, and most importantly, it teaches the 9 steps to take immediately following a disaster. Because it's these actions with these important steps that can save lives. That first hour is called the golden hour, and that is a medical term in medical circles that simply means the period of time immediately following a traumatic injury, where the highest likelihood that prompt medical treatment will prevent death. And so knowing your neighbors, who has what, who does what, who knows what, provides a very valuable resources to be able to deploy in a disaster. You know, do you have neighbors in the medical field or with first aid training? Who has a chainsaw? Who has a generator? And so this program brings neighbors together and helps them get set up with planning so that they know what to do. Because, you know, we also know from past disasters that people will just run out to help, and they will, and we know that the death toll goes up exponentially after a disaster, because people are running into that are untrained and don't know what they're doing, or running into buildings and then becoming victims themselves. So having some knowledge in advance and some planning in advance will help people kind of do things the right way and the safe way. And of course, that's what CERT training does for us too. We train neighborhoods in this program. All it takes is getting a few people together, and we come out, we do the training, we come out with all the material, we have the resources for you. There is absolutely no cost for it. And we get you set up and in a good place so that you can continue, if you have a large neighborhood, to, you know, bring people in. We have Map Your Neighborhoods that have 10 neighbors to over 600. We have Map Your Neighborhoods that have formed these amazing neighborhood emergency teams that meet all the time and keep building their preparedness resources and their skills. So, you know, we have quite a range of neighborhoods in various stages of preparedness, but for the most part, even just, you know, that 10 house neighborhood that has taken the training, so now they know, okay, when the earthquake hits, we know what to do right after. These are just very, very important steps. And then the other program that we have is WASH, and that stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. This is a package deal. You cannot have one without the other. And after an earthquake, pipes are going to break and we will be without running water. And so this is where the WASH program really comes into play. Now, this next slide is a bit of an eye popper here, fair warning. So DOGAMI, that's, you know, the Oregon Department of Geology and Minerals Institute, along with other sources, have estimated that following a Cascadia event, it will take 1 month to 1 year for water and sewer to come back online in our area. Now, that's a wide time frame simply because recovery will vary depending upon the area, and specific risks like liquefaction, which is a phenomena that occurs when the ground is shaking and groundwater rises and mixes with the soil, and it causes the ground to behave like liquid. And of course, Beaverton has a lot of areas that are from minimal to high risk of liquefaction. And it basically means that whatever's buried underground, depending on the level of severity of the area, is going to break, is going to come up. And that's why we have this WASH program, because areas are going to be without running water. And depending on where you're at, that's going to kind of indicate how long. So we have developed a program for that. And of course, it involves storing water. The recommendation is 2 gallons per person per day. And that's not just 2 gallons of drinking water. That includes cooking and sanitation and hygiene. Now, most of us simply do not have enough space to store the amount of water that it would take when we start talking about being without running water for 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. So we have other things in place that we teach and demonstrate. And that is, for example, having a do-it-yourself water filtration system. This is something that's very easy to put together. It takes a couple of food grade buckets, a ceramic water filter that you can get off of Amazon, and it comes with the instructions and the supply list. I mean, I put this together myself, so I figure if I can do it, use a drill, that anybody can. And so this gives you the ability to source water from a creek, for example. There's lots of water around Beaverton. And so you kind of take a look around your area and see, well, do we have any creeks? Are there any culverts? Where can we get water from? And so this would be a way to be able to get potable water. Oops. Uh-oh. Did I miss the rest of it? Oh, I guess I did. Well, let me go right back here, because this right here, this deals with the sanitation part, for what to do with all the pee and poo, because if there's no running water, then toilets don't work. And we have a great display and information about pee and poo buckets. We'll give you the neat little stickers and everything that go on there, and the supply list and how you do it. It's very, very simple. It's, 2 5-gallon buckets. One is for pee, one is for poo, because they need to be separated. Pee is sterile. You can toss it out onto your lawn or into your garden, or even down a drain. It's poo that has the pathogens, and that needs to be separated and contained in a different way. But this gives you emergency toilets. And so these 3 things, being able to, oh, and I know what else is missing, darn it, my hand washing station. Okay, I kind of missed some stuff. Sorry about that. I'm going to close out of this now. Let's see. I want to, okay, there we go. Stop sharing screen. Hand washing station, again, using those 5-gallon buckets. So that you can take some clean water and be able to wash your hands. So these 3 separate programs, we marry them together and present these as that these are the things that we would like to see people do. And we have found that one of the easiest ways to do this is to start with a neighborhood gathering, so that we can talk about map your neighborhood and then bring in all of these other pieces and try to make it as non-overwhelming as possible. Because when you start to look at all the things that, wow, these are all the things that I need to do, it does become overwhelming. And so we try to to make it not as much and not scare people while we're talking about all of these things. So we are a resource from emergency management to help neighborhoods come together, be prepared, households be prepared, and create a resilient community. That's what we do. And, so this was a real little snapshot here, because diving into any one of these subjects, takes more time, and something that I'm always happy to help people. And you have my contact information. And so I'm always happy to go further with this.
How many neighborhoods? Oh, sorry, Joe.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Claudia, on those pee and poop buckets, where did you say they could be purchased?
Oh, you can get them at Home Depot.
Okay.
And the little toilet seat that you saw, that's Lugabaloo is a company that makes those. If you just go online and just search, emergency toilet seats, emergency toilets. In fact, if you search for twin bucket emergency toilet system, you will find information how to make those. And it's Christchurch, New Zealand, that actually came up with that whole idea, that whole system, because of the subduction zone earthquake that they experienced that was absolutely devastating. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Claudia, how many neighborhoods in Beaverton have taken advantage of these services and are on their way to being prepared?
Oh my goodness. I was thinking the other day that I need to do an audit about that. We've been at this for a few years, definitely over 100. We have a ways to go, simply because, as volunteers trying to pull this together and get enough people, because Mike and I have these grand plans. We want to create a comprehensive program that marries all of these together, that we can roll out, that neighborhoods can do, give them a roadmap, give them a template, and go, here you go. And then we're there to help provide resources and support and continued training. So this is something that we're in the process of working on. But so I don't have that magic number, because I haven't looked in a long time, but there's a lot of neighborhoods.
And it's not all coordinated too. So, different neighborhoods do different things. And then, you have change over time. So you can have a bunch of neighbors who do it, but then some of them move and then they don't really keep up. If you don't have something set up, a structure, a simple, easy structure set up for people to follow, it's easy to become overwhelmed, because there's just, when you really look at all the things you would like to have in place for those, it's a lot. And it's best what Claudia is talking about. What was it that you said? Something about bit by bit. You had, big or small, prepare for them all, right? Yeah. But you do it by doing one piece at a time, one piece. And then you have to bring new people in. And then the other thing I realized too, I did a Map Your Neighborhood. I'm a good example. My aunt told me that we learn most from our mistakes. And I made some really good ones in my Map Your Neighborhood effort that I did last spring. So we've got a long way to go. So we had a great startup meeting, but it's then how to get it organized and how to take people along. So I'm looking really forward. Claudia is going to be working with us, and we're actually going to be doing some work at the neighborhood level about this. And Sexton Mountain is going to take the lead, but Sue and I are really interested. We're going to be working together, and we're going to have a meeting here in the beginning of December to bring some folks together to start.
Because I think our most successful neighborhoods are the ones that have actually established teams, emergency response teams, and they meet regularly. And what the beauty in that is that, they're not just preparing for a disaster. But like during the pandemic, for example, you know, these neighborhoods, because they were organized and they knew their neighbors and who's vulnerable and so on and so forth, they were out responding to make sure that their more vulnerable neighbors had what they needed. So it's, you know, it's beautiful because they can do it at any time that there's a need. And I was actually thinking the other day that I need to invite these neighborhoods to a Zoom and get some really good information on how they've modeled their team. Some of them I know very, very well on how they've done it and how they continue to move forward. But I think that's really key right there.
Yeah. Any other questions for Claudia?
Yeah, Claudia, do you or your other volunteers ever come out to homeowners association, give a little talk, get brochures?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on the board. Our homeowners association have 26 families, 13 buildings, and I've given out the that booklet that Beaverton has put out.
Mhm.
The Take 5.
Take
Five,
that, thank
yes.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Plus, every home on their gas meter
Mhm.
has a wrench
Yep.
to be able to shut that gas off.
Mhm.
And I've talked to people a little bit at a time, you know, over the years,
Mhm.
and but you still gotta. What's that?
That's the Take 5.
No, that's,
right.
that's the
Information.
Map Your Neighborhood book.
Oh, Map Your Neighborhood. Oh,
Right,
that's not
right.
Take 5. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. Okay.
Right. So
Mhm.
so maybe sometime we're gonna have a Zoom meeting in January,
Mhm.
kind of a big annual meeting, but I don't know, maybe there's something I can talk to you later and we can figure out something that you can get. Yep, there it is right there. Take 5, yeah.
Right.
Every one of our,
That's
most of our HOA members have that now. I have a few extra
Mhm.
copies and I have to give it to some new people that's come in.
Mhm.
I'll give you a call and we can maybe work something out.
Yeah, that's fine. Sue has my email too. So and so does Kate. So I'm absolutely available to help in any way that I can. I'm looking forward to this group that we're going to be meeting and getting some things going.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia.
Hey,
That's
you're
certainly
welcome.
very valuable information.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah,
Thank you
and-
for volunteering also, Claudia.
Oh,
That's
yes.
a huge effort for you, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm happy to do it. So, well, I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you for having me. And I'm gonna go have my dinner.
Thanks again. Good night, Claudia.
Okay. Good night. I have to. Oh, here's the leave button. There we go.
Okay. And certainly, you know, we talked about this before, as Kate was mentioning, it's one of those projects for the upcoming joint efforts between Sexton, Mountain, Highland, and us. So we have that to look forward to. And of course, in the whole process, we as a neighborhood are going to be better prepared, certainly on the road to that. And we'll all feel better about that too. I think it takes away some of the panic if something big happens, if at least your mind goes directly to, okay, these are my steps, boom, boom, boom. So it helps a lot.
Yeah, and you can't figure it out. When the emergency happens, what you realize is you have no time, no
Right.
time. So knowing ahead of time, to Sue's point about, you know, what you're going to do and where things are, it makes all the difference, all the difference.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And next up would be treasurer's report. And Joe, did you have anything you'd like to report?
Sure.
Okay.
Complete chaos. Amy, you might want to listen to this here. We're trying to change the account from Bank of America to Rivermark. And we run into some slow time with one of the person we're working with at Rivermark wasn't familiar with neighborhood associations. Right now, so where it stands now is she sent off an email to Miles asking him to send a letter from the city of Beaverton saying that we, the West Beaverton NAC is authorized to open this account at Rivermark. And then also it said something about minutes from the city of Beaverton, but I think she might have meant the minutes from the meeting. And so right now we're waiting on Miles to get this letter off to Joanne of Rivermark with the tax ID number, which we have. And so have you ever, Amy, come across any kind of this kind of work before, or this kind of issue before?
You know, it's ringing a bell that, you know, in the brief time that I worked directly in the neighborhood program, that has been a bit of a challenge for folks in the past to switch banks. So I will send Miles a note about this in the summary this evening. I know he's out for a few days coming up. So tell me your time frame of urgency on getting this to Joanne at Rivermark.
Well, I don't know if there's any urgency.
Okay.
The money's in the bank and it'll stay there until we change it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if he's not able to get with you, let's say till after the, you know, Thanksgiving holiday, just throwing it out there. I don't know what his schedule is, but that would be okay.
Yeah, I assume so.
Yeah.
Wendell's hearing this here, and I assume you're okay with that, Wendell, because it's really, I don't think, even though Bank of America, the particular office where we have the money is supposed to be closing, if I remember right. Let's see. Two of our branches. Okay. Anyway, so I think we're okay until we just have to get these particular things to the person at Rivermark, and then we can open the account.
Yeah. So minutes, we need minutes. And then we also need Miles to send the letter authorizing.
Yeah, I'd be glad to send you a copy of that email that she sent us and what she was asking for if you want. Okay. I don't have your email address, but I could probably get it on City of Beaverton website.
Things like the finance department would have that information, wouldn't they? At the city level? I mean, if Miles, I mean, I don't know where if Miles, I mean, if you're going to ask Miles and then he's just going to have to go somewhere else, I would guess that the next place to go would be the finance department to ask about it.
If it's something that's already been in the works, he's likely already in communication with finance. So, yeah. And Joe, if you've already sent Miles the information, that's okay. You know, I'll just let him know that, you know, this is the status. Yeah.
Okay.
I do see a note from Wendell concerned about our two projects, our scholarship as well as the Pages as Pillars, and that they may need to be suspended until the change is made. One thing about Bank of America, they do have a minimum balance that needs to be maintained so we don't face monthly charges. And so far, certainly with our balance, we've been able to escape that. I'm thinking we're okay, Wendell, in being able to continue with our projects. So Pages as Pillars, for example, because we can write a check. We have the approval for the matching program. So that's good. And I mean, I can sign the checks. So, you know, I'm thinking it should be okay. But certainly, I think Joe, Wendell, and myself, we can get together and maybe discuss this a little bit further. I know, who would have thought there would have been all of this we'd have to go through when all we wanted to do was change banks. So, yeah, I had a conversation with Joanne as well. I know she really wants to help us, but I think Joe hit it right on the head there. She's not familiar with our kind of nonprofit.
Right.
So,
you know, I talked to On Point person today. I put a call in to their particular person. He called me today. And he said basically the same thing. Got to get a letter from the city and with the numbers and maybe even some minutes. But he said that's standard the operating procedure for banks to get some kind of written okay from the city that,
Mhm.
that we can do this.
Yeah, and as Wendell noted here too, Miles told us it would not be easy.
Yeah.
But we don't back down from a challenge, do we?
That's
And in the
about it.
yeah, the benefit here, of course, is going to be not having to maintain the minimum balance we do at Bank of America. I remember years ago when we had a lower balance, Karen Scouten, for example, every single month she had to approach them and ask for that fee to be reversed. They didn't always reverse it, but still it was a chore. So that's one direct benefit. And something probably more community oriented is certainly more in keeping with us as a neighborhood group in the city of Beaverton as well.
Mhm. Okay, that's about
All
it.
right. And do you want me just to reiterate, Joe, the numbers from last month of our balance?
Sure.
Okay, so in our account, we do have a balance of $8,320.52. $2,174 has been earmarked for pages as pillars.
Mhm.
Okay. It makes that report easy. We haven't had any changes for a while. So that's cut and dried. Okay.
Mhm.
And my next question would be, does anybody have a BCCI report?
Wait,
know
just
we
back
don't
up,
have-
back up a second. Sue, when is that money due for pages and pillars?
I'm sorry, say that again, Joe. I didn't hear.
When is that money due for the pages and pillars?
Typically, we do something, gosh, I think it was December or January timeframe. And Wendell can help me in that as well, in remembering that. We
Okay.
typically would try to do it twice a year. Certainly, we haven't had any fundraisers. We always, the second time of the year would have been right before school was out, so that the children would be able to go off into summer and have their library of books. So I guess if, push comes to shove, we certainly should be able to hit that target. Yeah, and as Wendell said, there's not a due date for it. And we have to let Chehalem know that we are going to be offering this, and then they would go and identify the children who are in need of books. And then after that, they tell us they've got that identified, then we can provide funds, and then their librarian or the person whom they assign will go out and source the books. And then we all come together and hand them out to the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good question, though. Thank you, Joe. Oh, so again, do we have a BCCI report? Ah, Linda. Oh, I think you're muted, Linda.
Okay.
There we go.
The last meeting essentially was largely about the joint neighborhood meetings that you and Miles and Kate all attended, and the neighborhoods working together. So most of our meeting was spent talking about that. Everyone seemed to think that was a great idea. Tossing around other neighborhoods that could get together, doing that more. So, I mean, essentially that was a big discussion and very positive. Everybody thought that was a great idea to get groups involved together. And that's pretty much, I don't really have anything. We talked about another voters forum coming up. I can't really see any other major thing that was discussed. Let's see. Anyway, that's what I have. Joe, do you remember anything more that we talked about at the BCCI?
Great. Thank you, Linda. That's wonderful. It's great that my ears weren't burning, but, but I'm glad they like that.
There'll be a BCCI meeting this Monday.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And hi, Karen. Karen was waving at us. Old business, we already talked about some, and that was certainly our attempts to get our checking account transferred from one bank to another. And of course, our cooperative ventures with Sexton Mountain and Highland. So Highland. So that is certainly something we're going to be actively working on throughout. And certainly anybody who wants to volunteer anytime. Our major project is the Park Passport. So I've jotted down ideas. We're going to be getting together. I know Joe, Kate, myself, and anybody else, just let us know. The more the merrier. And certainly, you know, again, it's going to be a cooperative venture. So we'll have the help of Tualatin Hills Park and Rec, as well as the other two NACs. Okay. Any other old business?
Well, I was going to add a few more words about what we're doing. In my understanding, and again, you guys feel free to pitch in because, you know, we all hear things slightly differently. But what we saw at the meeting where we had the NAC leadership from the 3 different NACs was we each took a project that we had an interest in. And the idea is to basically come up with a template, go out, do it, but think about coming up with a format for how we do it. And then we can look at what worked, what didn't, and changes so that we can share it with other neighborhoods. So if they want to do something similar, they don't have to start all over again. We've already put together the information. And so the 3 major areas we had is we said we would do the Park Passport. Sexton Mountain said they would do the neighborhood readiness, map your neighborhood part. And Highland was doing, was it tree planting? Yeah, tree planting. So they're
I think they were also going to talk about native plants as well.
Okay, yeah. So we've got different areas of focus, but we're getting on together occasionally and seeing what we can map out for other people to do.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Okay, any other old business? Any new business? We're still working on our old business. Okay. Gee, Linda, not to put you on the spot, but were you thinking of, I know, were you thinking of maybe continuing at least going to some of the BCCI meetings as a co-rep?
Well, I definitely can do it through the rest of this year.
Okay.
And then talk again. I will try to make a firm decision in my own mind.
Okay.
But the next 2 months, so.
Okay. Thank you, though. Thank you, Linda. I know that I appreciate all of you and everything that you're doing and volunteering for our NAC and in the city as well. It's just, you know, people like you make the city go and make it the nice place it is to live. So I personally want to say thank you and I appreciate that. Okay. Karen?
Was there anything from the city? Any report from the city?
Oh yeah, Amy.
Yes, thank you so much. Looks like that was missed.
I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Amy.
Are we ready to do the city update now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Cool. We have 5 items that I need to report on. The first one is the free leaf drop-off event. Now that fall's in full swing, the city's here to help with leaf disposal needs. Our Public Works Department is hosting the weekly drop-off events now through December 4th. And this is a joint effort to also collect food donations for local food pantries. You can go to beavertonoregon.gov/leaf disposal for drop-off locations, details, dates, and times. Leaves that are dumped, blown, or left in the street near the curb can cause localized flooding when the catch basins get clogged. The second update is from our library on the One Book One Beaverton 2022. Beaverton City Library is pleased to announce that The Cold Millions by Jess Walter, author of the New York Times bestseller, Beautiful Ruins, is the selection for a 4th annual One Book One Beaverton community-wide reading program. This captivating historical novel is set in the Pacific Northwest, and it's an eye-opening portrayal of our nation's class divisions brought to life by a vibrant cast of characters, real and invented. We began handing out the free copies of the book starting, let's see, that was last Saturday, November 13th, with a special book giveaway at both library locations. And I'm not sure if that book giveaway will continue, if that was one day only. So if you're interested in that, you might reach out to the library first just to check. Throughout January, you can attend a series of related special events. The program will culminate in an evening with the author on Saturday, February 5th. You can learn more at beavertonlibrary.org/1book, and that's the numeral 1. The next update is about the Beaverton Winter Shelter opening. The shelter will be open for the winter season to provide a warm, safe space for adults experiencing homelessness. It's a collaboration between the city, Just Compassion of East Washington County, and Washington County Supportive Housing Services. The shelter provides space for 30 adults on a 24/7 basis with access to resources like showers, hot meals, and a safe place to sleep. The shelter will be open at the Beaverton Community Center, which is located at 12350 Southwest 5th. It started this week on Monday the 15th through Tuesday, March 15th. And there's a possibility of extending it due to the weather. And they will be following COVID-19 precautions for guests and staff. More information is at beavertonoregon.gov/shelter. And if you want to support the shelter, they are doing a drop-off supply event on Wednesday, December 1st from 9 a.m. to 5:30. There's a list of top needs, which includes razors, earplugs, blankets, hand warmers, shampoo and conditioner in small bottles, socks, underwear, sweatpants, waterproof gloves, and frozen and non-perishable food. Next item is about Open Air Beaverton. This is a way for restaurants, recreation, and other professional businesses to operate in a healthy and safe manner while providing services during the pandemic by providing service outside. And the First Street Dining Commons has been extended through winter, and there's a new layout for the weather. So you can check it out when you're heading downtown for food and drinks. There's also a grant program. Hopefully it's not a problem. A grant program being assessed for Open Air Beaverton program. And it is to help with costs associated with the new permit program. And that began in November. And it is a permanent permit program that allows businesses to use the expanded areas for business, like structures and tents in some places, like in the right of way. Final message is welcome Councilor Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg, who joined the City Council in October. And Ashley has a message that she wanted to share to the community members. She says, I am honored to serve my hometown through this role on City Council. Getting to serve our community as a member of the THPRD board, I developed an interest and passion for affordable housing. I look forward to creating policy that will help further our housing goals and ensure people in Beaverton have shelter. By the year 2030, our world may look very different than it does today, and it already looks quite different than it did in 2010. I hope to push us to take bold action as a city when it comes to climate change. I can't wait to hear from you and encourage you to contact me over email or phone. And you can learn more about the City Council and upcoming meetings at beavertonoregon.gov/citycouncil. And that concludes the city update.
Hey, thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Amy?
No, but when the meeting ends, could I chat with you for a minute or two, Amy, before you go? Thanks.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then the other new business, just talking about our next meeting, we always take the winter off. So our next meeting is actually February. So we will not be meeting in December or January as a group like this. Certainly individuals of us are going to be meeting on other issues. And we do have our speaker, our presenter for February, and that's going to be the mayor, actually going to pay us a visit. And my guess would be we're probably still going to be in virtual mode. That's only a couple months away. I don't see any big changes where we would be able to progress to days of old. Okay.
Cases are up again of COVID. I don't know if you guys saw that the last couple days,
Yeah.
but it's going up again.
Well, what
Unfortunate.
would be the date of that? So
Yeah, let me
let's go.
pull that up.
16th.
Let's see here. February.
Third Wednesday?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah,
would be
third.
February 16th.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
the Olympics are on.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Oh, no.
Just seems like we just had them. Last,
We did.
yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Is there any other business? Okay, if there is no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
So moved.
move.
Seconded?
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Well,
Thank
we
you
have to
all.
vote, don't we? Have to vote to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, all in favor? Yes and right.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I'm not putting my hands up, I'm just adjusting. Besides, I don't get to vote. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation. And Amy, thank you.